Okay, my name is Kelsey Kvandal, and I'm going to be reading What Love Is by Sebastian Matthews. Here goes. You could tell he was a Marsalis brother, even sitting in the back. He had that muddy river lilt in his voice, the bristling intellect, and the irrepressible need to teach the storied history of African American classical music. Jazz was in his blood as legacy. The funky butt was jammed, only this back table free, whiskey's on the way, a Basie number, monk. The band tight, Delfeo's trombone aflame. From the opening chorus, I even didn't mind that nearby tables were more chatter than rapt attention, or that our waitress took her time, for Delfeo was holding forth on the subject of cuttin', that fraternal pissing contest where the raw-boned skill and bravado run loose to fight for the night's supremacy. When the trumpet got introduced, he looked over at Marsalis, a little reticent to step into the ring. Who could blame him? Delfeo was all over the bone, so low in the register your feet could feel it, so high he was bumping the night's rafters. And not just range, he donned all the hats of virtuosity in rapid succession, and swung like crazy, too. The trumpeter was game, following behind like a younger brother, tossing up the bell of his horn, blatting out wild roundhouse notes. But he was going down, and when he managed a high C and held it, it came from his waist. He'd been cut off at the legs. We nearly jumped out of our seats, like at some cellar cockfight. At the break, heading for the John, I spied a couple groping in the dark hall. The woman pushing the man up against a wall, kissing him hard, his hand cupping her ass. And when the waitress set down her drinks, her breasts dropping like ripe peaches, a cowgirl tattoo dancing on her arm, I just about burst into happiness, for being among friends, for loving my wife, who I knew was at home, in front of the fire, dog asleep at her feet, and raised a silent toast to the night unfolding, to soulful music, and to the graceful glance of good luck's passing. Later, when Delfeo played the loveliest solo on You Don't Know What Love Is I ever heard, heroin slow, each note laid out like an early morning baker sets out a rack of bread loaves. The place got church quiet, drinks clinking as we listened in on a one-way lover's plea, into the grimy payphone of the blues. Before we left, the couple returned, the guy's shirt back basted with brick dust and sweat. I shook Marsalis' hand on the way out in that tentative way blacks and whites do. Half soul shake, half how you do, and told him what I thought of his solo. He he gave me a look I couldn't read, that I'd like to think registered surprise. What do I know? Out on the hotel street, on the walk back to the hotel, past a broken bottle Congo Square, 4 of us picked our way through the drunk city still bustling past midnight, sidewalks slick from the street swept of rain, jabbering about the prize fight of a set, and I tried to tell my friend something of the feeling that had taken hold of me, stumbling over the words like a greenhorn sitting in. He listened, rapt, happy, filling in the last gap of my music with a huge whoop, and then steps later, wow, and we crossed over into canal, heads bent in reverie, for all the night had offered up in its swell. Okay. When I first read this poem, I didn't necessarily think that it was about what love was. I thought he had just kind of used the song title in the part when he was talking about Delfeo playing the most beautiful rendition of it he'd ever heard. But as I read more, I realized that I think it's a little bit of both. I see him finding love in like the little things. He seems so passionate about his love for this African American classical music, and he seems to be listening so intently that as a reader you can almost hear it playing, like within the background. He talks about the trumpeter and how phenomenal he is, and that his high C just really had an impact on like everybody listening. And says that by saying they nearly jumped out of their seats when he hit his high C. After after that, when he spots the couple going at it near the bathroom and then the waitress giving them their drinks, it reminds him like how good he has it being among friends, and that he knows he has a loving wife waiting for him at home, and that like things are just going pretty good in his life right now. Um, he ends the poem with an attempt to describe to his friend what he's feeling, but I feel like both of them are maybe a little inebriated. So that's where the sound effects like the whoop and wow come in. Um, or maybe it could also be the fact that it's pretty difficult to explain to somebody else what you're feeling, especially when it comes to love. So I could see the friend just going along with him and just kind of trying to give out the appropriate reactions at this point. But yeah, that's what I took from the poem.